Right, good morning. Welcome to Elevenses. Sorry, I'm a little bit later than I even planned, but things have all got away from me a bit this weekend for one reason or another. Anyway, here now and here with the show, it's Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and today we are talking about a whole bunch of different news stories. Let me just run through exactly what we have in store for you on the show today. Driverless Waymo have failed to spot a police cordon in London and drove into it, which is rather alarming. Guy Martin, the former TT racer and star of the Speed TV series, has been banned for speeding. A hapless rider who was attempting to evade police pursuit, he got nabbed when his bike broke down. A sort of distressing story, but rather unusual one. An e-step scooter rider is suing a Croydon tram operator for negligence over the death. Look at that one in a little bit more detail. Motorcycle volunteers, you're needed to help train guide dogs. And the City of London Lady Mayor has swapped horse and carriage for a motorcycle for the annual ride out. Then we'll look at some UK and world news in brief before we move on to motorcycle news. Now, the bad news is that Verge's solid state batteries aren't meeting their claimed performance. That's what a whistleblower says. Anyway, Damon's website, that's gone missing, just like their bike. We'll have a quick look at an inexpensive armour vest from Oxford. There's a £40 cashback offer on some Avon and Dunlop tyres. And we'll have a look at the Any life utility vehicle and ask if it actually has any utility before we round off the news element with Volvo's unique reflective spray paint. Just one problem with it, it washes off in the rain. And finally today, a slight change to the schedule. There was an article suggesting that drilling for oil was the route to UK energy security. So we'll look at that, answer some questions on it, and conclude that the answer to that is no. So stay with me for the next 40 minutes or so while we run through your one-stop shop for topical news, controversial views, and sometimes some better biking tips too. Right. Okay. So on with the first element of the show. Now, let me just try and get the picture up. Again, I had this ready and it's disappeared. There's the picture. So where is it on screen? Share screen. Right. There we are. Okay. So get the sizes right. Now, as you possibly know, I first ran online courses as far back as 2008, and although I had to pull them after a couple of years because the platform I was using got a chop, and I simply couldn't find another which did the same thing. There's always a worry, of course, when you rely on third-party hosts. I relaunched them during COVID, got a fresh host over at paddleit.com, and I've been running a new course every few months since then. I've currently got 3 riders on one course, 1 rider finishing off another as well. Now, I don't think there's any doubt that they're actually all very much enjoying it. They're all saying that it's changing their way of thinking about riding, giving them some fresh insights, which I think is really good news. But recently, since I've noticed other eCourses are starting to appear. Now, one I found versus the Rider Part website. I'll give you a picture of that with any. No, I've not got it. For heaven's sake. All right, I've not got it. I mislaid it, that picture. Basically, it claimed to be from the College of DuPage and to be a motorcycle safety course. Now, I looked at it and it was quite clearly AI generated. There's one easy way to tell. They very often, the AI cannot produce words. It produces gibberish, and in this case it had produced a sort of a J combined with an R, which was a very interesting letter in the background. And anyway, this site was allegedly created by one Andre Silva, whose profile pic is clearly his AI, as the photos promoting the course is said to be. And it's targeting riders in Illinois. And it says that it's a state recognized training pathway. Offering state-approved motorcycle safety course for beginners, combining classroom instruction with hands-on riding exercises, and provides a license test waiver upon successful completion, and that it's part of the Illinois Department of Transportation's Cycle Rider Safety Training Program. Well, just one problem with this. If you apart from the AI, once you go and find the College of DuPage, which is really enough, and you scroll through their 250 odd degree and certificate courses, you can find them online at cod.edu/index.html. There are no motorcycle training courses. In fact, there's nothing at all connected to driving. Now, the College of DuPage motorcycle safety course, that lurks at carinterior.alibaba.com in their buying guides section. It's clearly completely unconnected with the real Illinois course. But why does the course actually exist? That's the puzzle I can't answer. Rider Part suggests that it might have been a vehicle, so to speak, to drive traffic to a site selling, quote, car stuff. My own first thought was it was a pay now, then never hear from us again scam, which are increasingly common, but there don't appear to be any links to a payment processor. So all I can say to that is it's rather bizarre. Now, the next item that I just wanted to show you, if I got the picture at all. Let's see if I can get this one up on screen. Right, apologies for this. It's always a problem with getting these things up on screen when I want them to appear. Right, so this is the picture anyway. Now this is some e-learning tasters. Now this is from the official DVSA Guide to Better Driving e-learning course. And you'll find, you can see that there are 3 sections here: confidence, theory test, alertness, and roadcraft chapter 12, overtaking. Now, these are all official elements of this e-learning. And I looked at the chapter 12 overtaking taster, which comes from the police manual, and it looks at what they call single stage overtaking. And they walk you through the information, position, speed, gear, acceleration approach, pretty much as you'd expect. There are a couple of AI voiceovers, but they simply repeat the text, presumably for those who prefer to listen than read. And there's a short video which delivers the same information for a 3rd time. So that's for people who like to watch rather than read. Now, this is one I look at. And the plus for this eCourse is that it's not desperately expensive. It's £30 for a year's access, in fact. And I'll just put the 2 links up for you so that you can go and have a look for yourself if you like. So here they come. Let me get that up. There it goes. Now, as I say, I think the free audio and video sections may help learners who do find reading the actual book difficult. It's not exactly an easy read, but if you're looking for anything genuinely eye-opening, I'll be honest and say that I think you'll be disappointed. I certainly didn't come away with anything that read, sounded, or looked even vaguely like an insight into overtaking, which is the most dangerous of maneuvers. It's just the usual do it this way approach, and the implication is it won't go wrong, and that's about it. And the other thing is, although you are learning online, as in e-learning, you're not actually being taught. There's 0 interaction with anybody. There's no one leading the course. It's basically just another way of reading the book, and that's a big difference with my own e-learning. My own NVQ, which was in distance learning, was led by a tutor. I was one of a group of about 15 people, I think it was. So there was a huge amount of interaction. We were all able to interact with each other. We could interact with the tutor. And of course, we learned almost as much from that interaction as we did from the basics of the course itself. So frankly, if you want to learn something with more than just the conventional thinking, and in particular, if you want to discuss what you're learning, I don't think you really can do any better than sign up for my survival skills 8-week eCourse. So I based it on the way I learned on my NVQ. I've modified it to suit motorcycle riding. It's highly interactive. It mixes online learning, online exercises. Attendees interact with each other. There are video sessions where we have group discussions, and it all builds on to the sort of the theory of riding based on my survival skills approach to rider training. Now the link is just going up, but if you want to sign up for the next one, which will open up in just a few days time, starting in May, it'll cost £99. Now that's rather less than the cost of a Sunday morning fry up on your breakfast run spread out over the next 2 months. So why not sign up now on the new improved sign up link? Right, okay, so having hopefully got the right picture on screen, and no, I haven't, oh, for God's sakes. Weather, there we go. Now, last week saw some lovely spring weather. High pressure continues to control our weather right through the coming week, and there'll be mostly dry and sunny spells for most of us, occasional showers, which could be heavy in places. Now, this afternoon, it is sunny in parts of the south. It's a beautiful morning here at the moment. Just a couple of tiny clouds have bubbled up since I started. As the day goes on, there's a chance for some heavier showers to affect the eastern parts of England, possibly with some thunder, and that could reach London and the southeast by the evening. Now, tomorrow will brighten up as the day goes on, should stay dry. Cool breeze will keep temperatures down in the east and southeast of England as it comes in from the North Sea, but brightening skies for all. And it should be sunny a day in the northwest and yesterday, or today rather. Anyway, breezy in the south. Wednesday stays breezy across the southeast, and there'll be some sun, the odd shower. It could brush into the far southwest of England. Thursday looks to remain warm, dry and sunny for most, but more showers are likely to drift into the southwest and later into western Wales. Friday looks to turn more unsettled still for the west, but still plenty of sunshine in the east. And the weekend does look as if it is likely to return to some slightly more unsettled conditions. Right, so banner on for the news. Let's hope all this comes out in the right order. What have we got for you today? Well, a driverless Waymo taxi ploughed into an emergency tape, cordoning off a crime scene in Harlesden in northwest London, not that far away from here actually, on Wednesday evening, braking hard and stopping with the tape wrapped around the front of the building. So there was a TikTok video, which a bit fuzzy, but I think you can make out what's going on there. Let me just zoom in for you. If I can. Where's my button gone? There it is. So that's the zoom in picture. As you can see, the tape is sort of down here in the corner of the screen, and it's wrapped around the front of the car there. The two Met police officers then had a short conversation with the driver before the car backed off and drove away. Now, Waymo has told the Daily Mail that the company believes that the car was being manually driven at the time and has suspended the driver. And they say their initial analysis suggests the car would have identified the danger and stopped if it was in automated mode. Of course, since these cars are now on trial around the capital, ready to enter service as driverless cabs in some point in the near future, rather does beg the question, why wouldn't it have been in autonomous mode when this happened? Right, okay, now, well known for his pursuit of speed records since retiring from racing, former TT rider and TV personality Guy Martin has been disqualified from driving for 6 months after being caught, yes, you guessed, speeding twice on his Honda motorcycle. Now, the 44-year-old admitted through letters from his legal representatives that he had exceeded the speed limit. First on the 15th of July last year, he was recorded travelling at 46 miles per hour on the A50 near Leicester, where the the limit was 40 miles per hour, and in the second instance he was travelling at 78 on the A43, where there was a temporary 50 mile per hour restriction in place due to HS2. Under totting up, that led to an automatic 6-month driving ban, and Martin was ordered to pay a total of £1,329 in fines, costs, and victim surcharges. Now, the family of a teenage e-scooter rider who died after being struck by a tram are suing the transport operator for negligence. They claimed that Ruben Abarca, who was 19, was visible to the tram driver well before he crossed the tracks, where he was hit by a London trams service in Croydon on August the 22nd, 2022. The furniture delivery worker had his hood up. He did not slow down as he entered the Warden Marsh West footpath crossing at the same time as the tram. The tram was travelling at 59 kilometres per hour, 37 miles per hour, and sadly he died in hospital from his injuries 3 days later. And his family are seeking in excess of £200,000 damages from Tram Operators Limited, a subsidiary of transport giant First Group, which runs London Trams for Transport for London, which kind of the documents submitted to the High Court states that the tram driver, named as one Michelle Bishop, failed to keep a proper lookout or recognise the developing hazard as Mr. Abarca approached the crossing. She did not therefore operate the tram at a safe speed in the circumstances, or use its audible warnings or brakes effectively, according to the family, which all rather begs the question, which is easier to see, the tram or the scooter, and which can stop more quickly, the tram or the scooter. Anyway, if you are a motorcyclist and you want to help the Guide Dogs for the Blind Association, then you can sign up to help prepare the next generation of guide dogs for the road. The association's issued a plea for motorcyclists because motorbikes can startle young dogs, and the charity needs volunteer riders to help raise their puppies during the important first year's training. Hayley Andrews, head of puppy raising, said motorbikes can be unsettling for dogs, but added that, quote, for a guide dog, fear isn't just a nuisance, it can be a genuine safety risk for the person relying on them. So she said socialization is a fundamental part of a guide dog's training, and explained that the puppies need to encounter the real world in all its noise and unpredictability, and that the organization would, quote, love to hear from keen motorbikers and enthusiasts who can help our puppies build the confidence and focus when they need to stay calm when it matters most. Right, moving on to the next story then. This one's a sort of mildly amusing one. Just give you a quick zoom in on that one. Officers from Bracknell's neighbourhood team, they spotted a motorbike which they had previously identified and tried to stop the day before. They gave chase. Once again, the rider made off, travelling along a footpath and into an underpass, but before he could complete his getaway, the 18-year-old's bike, which appears to be a Riehu, broke down. The rider was arrested on suspicion of driving, dangerous driving, driving without a license, failing to stop, driving without insurance, and has since been charged with multiple offences. Now, on to a slightly more respectable motorcycle user. And again, I'll just give you a quick zoom in on that one so you can see what it is. It's the Lady Mayor of the City of London. She's apparently replacing the traditional pomp and ceremony of horse and carriage in favour of a motorcycle for her June ride-out. And this is part of her strategy for unsquaring the square mile for the year that she is mayor. Dame Susan Langley said she wanted her own ride-out from Mansion House on Thursday, the 11th of June, to be different. More than 100 bikes will have the opportunity to take part. The ride will begin at a central City of London location. It will head out to Essex, where all participants will enjoy food and refreshments. The booking form, I'm just going to put that up in the link below. So if you want to head off for that, that's the link to follow. It's £50 a bike, £10 per pillion, and it includes those refreshments and food, as I said. More details to follow. Online registration. The headline sponsor is Triumph Motorcycles. Right, okay, so over to some world news in brief. Now, suing and winning isn't always quite so winning as you might think. Now, in 2018, Thomas Soulier was awarded $8 million after a 2013 crash involving his GSX R600. He claimed that the Suzuki's had a defective front brake master cylinder, and indeed investigators later identified corrosion issues in the braking system, and Suzuki issued a recall shortly after the accident. However, in 2026, the California Court of Appeal overturned the jury's verdict and they ordered a new trial, but they removed the punitive damages. And this basically means that Soulier has to repay the $6 million regardless of what he's done with it in the meantime, which is probably not quite what he expected. Zero Motorcycles, they've appointed Jarno Middelbosch as their new Senior Director of Global Marketing. He's previously held roles with Ducati, spent 7 years at Harley Davidson, worked as head of brand at Red Bull, and has been Director of Communications and Marketing for Lucid Motors in Europe. You probably recall that Zero have shifted their world headquarters to the Netherlands. Now, 2 motorcycles have been stolen from a museum in North Norfolk. The theft is believed to have happened at the Norfolk Motorcycle Museum in North Walsham in the early hours of Saturday morning last weekend. Police are hunting for suspects. In York County, North Carolina, a crash involving 2 motorcycles left one rider dead and another seriously injured. The 2 bikes, both Harley Davidsons, were driving in the same direction when the rider of one bike apparently was rear-ended by the second bike. The rider who was hit from behind ran off the road into a ditch and died at the scene. The other rider has been taken to hospital. Harley Davidson have recalled 17,000 motorcycles in the US for a fault where the rear brake line can contact the body control module, resulting in a brake fluid leak. The affected bikes include the Softail lineup, the Street Bob Heritage Classic, Lowrider S and Lowrider ST, and owner notifications should be sent up by the middle of next month. Now, it appears that the US edition of The Sun is as dubiously accurate as the UK edition. We'll come back to another story here where they say that a new law seeking to keep cars quiet could backfire in a major way for chopper enthusiasts. Now, they kind of make it vaguely clear that what they're actually talking about is Harley Davidson owners here, and they claim that this new law, which is from Florida, could hit owners with a fine of up to $500 simply for starting their engines, let alone riding their bikes. Now, it turns out that the bill refers to vehicles with modified exhausts, and the articles claim that the stock Harley Davidson exhausts exceed the law's limit of 80 decibels. It's a misunderstanding of how the noise output from the exhausts is actually tested. And of course, it ignores the simple fact that any machine leaving the factory will automatically comply with official noise laws. Now, if sales of small electric motorcycles seem to be taking off in the Indian subcontinent, the problem is not so good for startups who promised performance and long range motorcycles which could match the best of the ICE engine. So let's start with Verge motorcycles. Now, a story published on Ride Apart this week is an interesting one because it suggests that a whistleblower has come forward, gone to the police in Finland to state that Donut Labs and Verge motorcycles claims for their bike aren't what they appear to be. Now, the story first appeared in a Finnish newspaper, and according to them, the whistleblower is one Lauri Peltola, who is the former chief commercial officer at Nordic Nano. Now, this is a small battery startup in Finland, which has apparently been working with Donut Labs on the solid-state battery project. He says he's reported the matter to police because the readiness for mass production has been misrepresented, and the claimed energy density and charging cycles have not been achieved for production batteries. The figures that they have published have simply been based on scaling up from a small prototype. Peltola says the company doesn't have the production capacity for the batteries, since the production line isn't actually scheduled to be completed until later this year. And even when it is, he also claims that the capacity is not what is claimed. No, not surprisingly, both Donut Labs and Nordic Nano Group have responded, and they say they've been informed that an employee of Nordic Nano has filed a criminal complaint against Donut Lab, but they claim that they don't know the exact nature of the complaint, which is a bit odd. It's apparently been published. But they do claim that the individual has provided confidential company information to the press. So I suspect they know full well what's going on. So if you've been following the show, you will know I've been skeptical of Verge's claims, both in terms of performance and range. Their stunt last year, for example, to pick up the world record for the longest distance travelled on one charge on an e-bike, it was through London traffic. Took all day, averaged just 12 miles per hour. And they regularly seem to be on the verge of delivering to customers, but I don't know how many. They never publish numbers of how many have actually been delivered. Now, if that's Verge, it looks even worse for Damon. It looks like game over, in fact. Now, almost since ELEVENSES started reporting on motorcycle news in 2020, as many of us were left wondering what to do, of course, with ourselves during COVID, Damon have been hitting headlines. They launched in 2017, so just on 10 years ago now. And by 2020, I was reading their claims of a high-performance electric motorcycle that would rewrite the rule book. The Hypersport was claimed to be, wait for it, a 200 mile per hour, 200 mile range, 200 horsepower superbike. Now, even at the time, when a whole bunch of other startups were promising enthusiastic figures, it was hard to see how the technology could support those claims. It would obviously require some major developments, and they appear not to have happened. So I can't say I was surprised when the production machine was always just around the corner, with a new iteration of the factory development machine being shown off. Now, it never made it out of the development phase. Now, a prototype was apparently ridden just once by a journalist. Turned out to be a battery and electric motor bolted into a Yamaha R1, covered in 3D printed bodywork to make it look something different. Now, big plan to move to a new factory that was quietly cancelled. A stock market launch soon saw the shares falling to a point where they were almost worthless and trading being suspended. The CTO left in 2023. Staff redundancies went unannounced in 2023 and 2024. And ultimately, last year, the company was left with just 13 employees. Now, none of this stopped Damon from claiming that its first bike, the Hypersport Race, was 2/3 complete at the end of 2025. But last month, the CEO, the CFO, and a board member quit, leaving just 2 employees and no board. And on Monday, the website went dark as well. There we go. That's the one. As you can see, there's a sort of generic message there saying site not found, and just a link to the web host. Now, it's still down this morning when I checked, so my guess is that this really is the end of the road for Damon. So what about all the cash deposited by early backers against the promise of a future delivery of a working bike? Well, I guess that's most likely to be not found either. Right, okay, so one of the problems with body armor in outer layers is that if the jacket or trousers are loose fitting, I'm just wondering who's wandering out around in our front garden. Hang on a minute. the armor can move around, so it's not where you need it at the moment of impact. Or maybe like me, you've got several jackets for different weather conditions, and each one needs different armor. And maybe when you come to replace it, it all gets a bit expensive. So here is a possible solution. It's the Armor ARMR armored base layer from Oxford, and it features a full 6-piece CE protector set. And compression stretch fit for, they say, precise secure placement. Breathable mesh keeps you cool and on a high heat ride, and of course it's recommended for use beneath a CE approved outer layer because it is not abrasion protective of itself. It's got CE2 shoulder and elbow protectors, CE2 back protector, and a CE level 1 chest protector. Now, how much does it cost? Because that's probably what you want to know, and it is £99. So not cheap, but not eye-wateringly expensive either, considering it's got all that body armor in it. I'm not quite sure which model of protective armor it is, but I dare say you can find out if you go looking for it. Now, what else have we got in the news? Not that. I want to go. Oh dear, here we go. Customers who purchase a pair of Dunlop or Avon qualifying tyres are able to claim up to £40 cash back to spend how they choose. Now, this offer runs nationwide in the UK until 15th of July, and they say a wide selection of tyres are available within the offer. Well, not that many actually. It's the Road Smart 4, the Sport Smart TT, and Dunlop Mutant tyres. You get £30 on Dunlop Sport Smart 4, Trail Max Meridian and Trail Max Raid tyres, £20 off a pair of Dunlop Qualifier Core tyres, and if you're going for Avon, you can get £30 back on 3D Supersport, Spirit ST or Cobra Chrome tyres. Right, okay. So, all right, that's a fairly useful offer. What do you do with a vehicle like this? There we go. Let me just zoom in on that. Now, this is from a company called Any, presumably pronounced Any because it's spelled ANY, and it's what they call a life utility vehicle, which naturally has to be abbreviated to LUV. A term their company has claims that they coined because nothing else in the existing vocabulary quite fitted. So what is it? Well, it's a two-wheeler with 120 litres of integrated storage based on a die-cast aluminium chassis. So there you can see a sort of a luggage box sitting in the luggage containing space. You can cover that over with interchangeable body panels if you don't want it to fall out. They've got an interesting photograph of a dog basket in there. I'm not sure many dogs would be very happy if you carried it there, but anyway, it's said to fit into daily city life and to be aimed at urban riders who don't necessarily identify as riders in the traditional sense. So what is it? Well, right now, all that's being disclosed is it is electric. There are no hard numbers. I suggest it's probably most likely to fit in the sort of moped or possibly the light motorcycle bracket. Now, assuming that there is a rear hub motor, I think one of the other pictures shows that a little bit more clearly. The question is, with that ruddy great hole in the middle of the bike, where's the battery? Now, presumably it's under the seat. There is a solid panel back there, but it's tiny. I suggest it's probably no bigger than the 2 kilowatt-hour drop-in batteries we've seen on various lightweight scooters like Hondas, for example. Frankly, I'd say it looks like a less practical alternative to the Swedish Cake brand, which you may recall was launched with big fanfare, big prices. They spent lots of money on huge expansion plans and, not too surprisingly, ran out of funds a couple of years later when it proved less attractive to buyers than designers clearly expected. So, I think these machines here are chasing a narrow niche, and I think for the Any machine, it's even narrower than they suggest. Right, now, final item on today's news. If I can find it, my pictures are out of order again. right back at the beginning, wasn't it? There, this is the right picture. Now have a look at this one. You can see some cyclists, and this is after they have been treated with Volvo Life Paint. This is, we are told, an amazing spray-on reflective paint that is invisible in ordinary daylight, but comes into its own in the dark when it reflects back any light, such as car headlight, that shines on it. And they claim you can spray it onto a variety of soft materials: fleece, cotton, linen, some nylons, as well as everyday items, including bike helmets, kids' backpacks, shoes, and pushchairs. Not quite sure why you'd be taking a pushchair on a bicycle, but I suppose you don't have to be cycling while you use it. Anyway, Volvo Life Paint, it is priced from only £13 a can and is a potentially life-saving safety product, except in one particular circumstance, and that's when it rains, because the reflective paint lasts for up to a week, presumably before it rubs off, which will make reapplying frequent and expensive too. But it can also be washed off with no effect on the colour and texture of the material, which presumably is exactly what's going to happen as soon as you ride in the rain. So back to the drawing board there, I fear. Right, okay, so on to the final item of today's show, where we look at an in-depth item. And this particular story appeared in my newsfeed. Let's again give you a zoom in on that. The writer, it was a couple of weeks old when it appeared, but it's asking a question that we're still hearing all the time. Why aren't we drilling for oil? And the writer here in this Auto Express column seems to think that we should hold a referendum on it, as if that ever gets a good answer to a question. And he says, never during the uninterrupted 31-year, 1,580 issue non-stop run of this weekly column have I called for a car motoring related referendum until now. This is Mike Rutherford writing, and he explains. Via this column 2 weeks ago, I argued that the war and resulting fuel and shipping crisis in the Middle East means that Britain must now safely harvest, secure, use or store as much energy for our needs as it is possibly can from as many local sources as possible. This grammar's a bit awful. This means feeding local wind, solar and tidal power into the grid. And as you've probably guessed, he also buys into drilling for more oil and oil-related products from the parts of the North Sea that belong to us. And here Mike goes on to quote a bunch of organisations, including even Renewable UK, as, quote, agreeing with me. Now, never mind, it should probably be the other way round, but anyway, excuse me. I checked. Renewable UK does not explicitly support drilling for new oil or gas sources, though it's reportedly adopted a more pragmatic, balanced stance towards domestic production, and it's neither for nor against new drilling licenses, but it does actually support accelerating the transition to green energy. Stumbling over my words today. So it's not quite agreeing with you, Mike, is it? But anyway, let's not spoil the story. This has nothing to do with trying to reduce the prices of fuel, says Mike. Instead, it's to do with self-reliance, creating more jobs for UK workers, guaranteeing more reliable and secure supplies for Britain, not importing our energy supplies by pipelines from Scandinavia or polluting ships from the Middle East or North America. Okay, right, self-reliance always sounds good, doesn't it? But it ignores a few tiny facts, which would have appeared after even the most cursory research. Now, from the moment drilling starts, the most optimistic predictions are from between 3 and 6 months for a new well in the North Sea to come online and start producing oil. And it often takes years before an oil field actually ramps up to peak production. Now, unless Trump's war lingers very far on into the future, it's highly unlikely that if a new license to drill was issued today, that it would have absolutely any influence at all on the current problems. There's nothing wrong with future proofing, but if you're reacting to the current rise in prices, it doesn't look like it's going to have any impact whatsoever. Now, the second problem is this idea that we wouldn't need to import fuel. But if we extract Brent crude, it needs to go to a refinery first. And where are those refineries? Well, again, a bit of research would show that it has to be shipped to Europe because we don't have petrol producing refineries in the UK. I think there's just one. The UK mostly re-imports the finished product. And again, that's not quite what Mike appears to understand, but because it's only shipped from the Netherlands, I think that's where most of the refineries are, to the UK, it's hardly an issue since the war is affecting the Strait of Hormuz and not the Straits of Dover. Now, the third problem, though, is the biggie. As a mature oil field, we've been sucking the North Sea since the 1970s. The easy-to-reach oil has long since been taken, and what's left is the more difficult to reach stuff. And we're getting really to the bottom of the barrel, if you'll pardon that particular pun. It looks like something between 90 and 93% of the oil has already been extracted. So what we could still extract from the North Sea is not a very big amount. It would be more expensive to get to, and in any case, it won't last very long. So that's not much of a route towards self-sufficiency, let alone any long-term energy security. And of course, just in case you were hoping that UK produced oil could bring down prices, that wouldn't happen because UK oil and gas are sold on the international commodity markets. So when we buy the stuff back, we're already hit by that climb in prices. So it's global prices that dictate. So industry bodies like the OE UK, they do argue that domestic production has lower emissions footprint than imported liquefied natural gas, and it does support jobs. And those points are reasonable and real, but they're far from demonstrating that new drilling would improve energy security for the UK. So that claim really supports its industrial policy, not security strategy. So I'm afraid, at the end of the day, the argument all falls down. Right. That is it for the end of the show today. Thank you very much again for tuning in. That's always appreciated. I forgot to thank my contributors. Let me just get those up on screen. So a quick shout out to last week's coffee supporters and subscribers. Carl, he downloaded the Survival Skills ebook. Mike, Kay Simmons, Damo, Nick, Claire, and Anonymous. Thanks to all of you once again for supporting me over on my coffee page. So that's it for today. It looks like a lovely day out there today, and the weather for the next week or so does look pretty good. So if you are out there on the bike today, make sure that you stay shiny side up, and then we'll see you for a future show. And I've lost the video with the closeout screen. Where is it?